Welcome to the Rules of the Checkride Part 8, Applicable Flight Evaluation Standards. Please, if you haven't watched the introduction, The Psychology of the Pilot's Checkride, or the Rules of the Checkride Parts 1 to 7, please exit now and watch them first. These videos follow a sequence and viewed otherwise will lessen its effects and may confuse you. How does the FAA evaluation standards apply during the flight check? During the flight portion, it is important for you to remember the training standards and personal standards that were explained in Part 2, Pilot Evaluation Best Kept Secrets. So, I'm assuming that you're aware of them. If not, go back and review them. Now, in explaining the acceptable FAA evaluation standards for the flight, we need to review the guidelines found on all PTSs concerning the evaluation of flight tasks and the application of the approved standards during the flight portion of the practical test. Which are the guidelines applicable to the flight evaluation? There are 6 different guidelines that convey exactly what you should be aware of during the flight portion of the practical test. 4 of them we can find under the heading Typical Areas of Unsatisfactory Performance and Grounds for Disqualification are: first, any action or lack of action by the applicant that requires corrective intervention by the examiner to maintain safe flight. Number 2, failure to use proper and effective visual scanning techniques to clear the area before and while performing maneuvers. 3, consistently exceeding tolerances stated in the objective. 4, failure to take prompt corrective action when tolerances are exceeded. The other 2 are: the tolerances represent the performance expected in good flying conditions. And number 6, a given special emphasis area may not be specifically addressed under a given task. All areas are essential to flight and will be evaluated during the practical test. How these guidelines do apply? Well, let's address the first one. Any action or lack of action by the applicant that requires corrective intervention by the examiner to maintain safe flight shall be disqualifying. It goes without saying, folks, if the examiner has to intervene because of something you did or didn't do, the examiner will stop the check ride. Always remember, under no circumstances will the examiner allow a pilot deviation, a violation of any regulation, or create an unsafe or potential hazardous situation in order to prove a point. For instance, if you're cruising toward a restricted airspace without appropriate clearance and there is no mention of the fact that you are aware of such airspace and there is no change in airspeed and or heading, the examiner will assume that an airspace violation is about to happen and will announce, "I have the flight controls," and will take evasive action before the aircraft penetrates the restricted area. This means that the flight check will be terminated. What is the difference between clearing turns and clearing the area? Understanding the second guideline, we will know the difference. The guideline reads as follows: failure to use proper and effective visual scanning techniques to clear the area before and while performing maneuvers will be disqualifying. These guidelines emphasizes clearing the area, and most pilots emphasize clearing turns. So what is it? Well, it's both of them. There is a difference between clearing the area and clearing turns. You see, before the clearing turn is commenced, you must scan the immediate area surrounding the aircraft in all directions. That means you must check straight ahead, up, down, right, left, and as far back to the rear as possible, with emphasis towards the side where the first turn is to be made. While not specifically required, my suggestion is that the first clearing turn should be made to the left, since the rule requires that aircraft pass each other on the right. This minimizes the chances of a mid-air collision. Then, the clearance turn should be performed to scan and make sure that the general area or practice area where the maneuver will be performed is clear. Additionally, you want to expose the aircraft to other pilots nearby. If I was FAA King, clearing turns will be a mandatory 45-degree bank turn, because that is how the aircraft really gets the greatest exposure. Repeatedly, I see pilots conducting very shallow bank turns. This minimizes the aircraft exposure. Please note that using shallow bank is not disqualifying, but it's not as effective as a steeper bank. Secondly, come Checkride day, steep turns with 45-degree banks will be a piece of cake. As the maneuver or procedure described in the particular task is conducted, additional effective scanning techniques to see and avoid shall be used by the pilot. After concluding the maneuver and before beginning the next maneuver, the clearing turns must be repeated. What kind of clearing turns should be made? There are many different types of clearing procedures. The essential idea of clearing the area is to be certain that the next maneuver is not going to proceed into another aircraft's flight path. The most common procedure is the two 90-degree turns in opposite directions. This kind of has been adopted by industry. Some pilots and instructors prefer the 180-degree turn or the 360-degree turn. Whatever the preferred method used, you should execute the appropriate clearing procedure before all turns and before executing any training maneuver. How many elements are involved in the term clearing the area? In summary, there are 7 essential elements involved in the term clearing the area. 1, clearing the immediate areas surrounding the aircraft before making any turns. The clearing turn itself, exposing your aircraft to others, scanning the general maneuvering or practice area, continue clearing and scanning while performing the maneuver. It is only good for one maneuver. And last, the omission of clearing turns before a procedure or maneuver is disqualifying. It is important that you and the examiner discuss what method for clearing the area will be used. It is imperative to be on the same page.